Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you today how to make a PlayStation 5 controller. And if you see me using any tools or supplies that you could use, if you check the link in the description below, it should be able to help you out. Alright, I am going to start now with some fondant that I mixed with Tylose powder or CMC powder. I had some extra black fondant and I didn't feel like going ahead and mixing a whole bunch of black gum paste, so I just added some of the powder to it in order to make it stiffen up and act just like gum paste. Okay, so I took my black, I'm going to call it gum paste now because it's just easier for me to remember, and I cut off the top. I kind of had it in a big fat oval shape there. Cut off the top so it's nice and flat. You can see I took two little angled nicks at the bottom and then cut straight across to connect them to take a wedge out of it. Now I've got kind of like, I don't know, Space Invaders monster looking thing going there, or a very poorly formed letter H, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm taking the bottom two little points that I had, cut those off, so now that's flattened off. And now I've got a flat top, flat in the middle, and two of the flat sides on the inside, but I want those two side pieces now to curve but angle out. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of rubbing at the sides, but trying to pull those bottom points outward more, so it's more angled outward. Just kind of rubbing and going nice and smooth with my hands. I'm not using anything sharp. I'm not cutting, so I don't want to lose any more of the thickness. I just want to kind of remodel the angle there. So that's what I'm trying to do. Once I get it to the shape, I'm going to start covering the patches with white. I've got some white gum paste rolled out really thin. And I cut a wedge out, as you see. It doesn't matter the size or anything because I'm just laying it across, and I'm going to freehand out two angled inward marks, and then about halfway down the black I'm going to make a line and then fold it over the top, make another line. So now I've got kind of my template here marked out. Using my X-Acto knife, going to trim out my wedge. As you can see, it's like a wonky square. It has a name. I don't remember. Geometry was too long ago. And so just clean up the edges, take a little nip off of each corner there on the inside because it should be rounded off. So I'm just using the back of my nails to make it a little rounder. Fold it over the top, match it up to where you had it. There you go. Now I ended up making mine a little too wide. It should have been a little bit more narrow, so be careful of how wide you make it because you're going to see later the little black buttons at the top don't quite fit properly the way they should, so just something to be aware of. And now for the side white pieces, I'm doing the same exact thing. Rolled out some white gum paste, nice and thin, laid it over the two sides, marked it out freehand style with my X-Acto knife, just little indentations, how I wanted everything to go. I'm leaving a space between the white piece in the center and the side pieces. You see how I'm leaving that little gap there? Because I'm going to end up filling it in with blue in a little bit. And so I'm just wrapping around, just like the top piece. Trim off all the extra, make it so you can tuck it under, wrap it around so it's all nice and neat and tidy. And again, you want to go about halfway thickness between the black down the handle on the side, and you should be good. Now do the same thing again, 3 for 3. Take your white gum paste, lay it on there, mark it out however you think it'll look the best. Place it back in its place. I'm going to trim off the extra there once I get it folded over. Tuck in all the extras on the side so it looks nice and neat. Take all that extra that you marked off, again, just using my X-Acto knife, and then place it once again into place. Tuck it under, like I said before. And if you need to add a little bit of water, go ahead. I'm using, oh, sorry, I hit the camera there. I made it jiggle. Okay, so I'm just using my paddle to smooth everything off. Okay, now I'm going to do the little side grips on the inside of the handle. I have little thin rectangles of white. It's actually, just some scraps from my earlier pieces. So I cut the one end off, as you saw with my circle cutter, to kind of round it so it'll just kind of fade into the rest of the handle. And I'm going to have the other end just kind of come to a blunt end. I'm not exactly sure. I was going off of pictures. I don't have a PS for my kids. I am not that lucky, I guess, or my kids, I should say, aren't that lucky. So I'm just going on the best that I can here. Okay, so the one end is blunted, the other end is rounded off. Put it in the sides and make sure it doesn't come up past the inside. You want a nice strip of that black to really show. And when you look at it, you just want a hint of that white showing on the inside. Now these two black circles that I just cut out are going to become the little toggles on the controller. So they're just solid right now. I'm using my ball tool to smash down in the center quite a bit. It makes them wider, but it also hollows out the center and creates like a ring around the edge. And I had used a circle cutter that I thought would fit well, because you want the two circles on either side there. You see how they kind of come down where the two pieces meet? And you want them to fill up most of that area. That little tic-tac beanie shape there goes right in the center toward the bottom. So now it kind of looks like it's got a face. It's kind of cute. It's happy to see us. Although it should be just kind of neutral to see us. A nice straight line, straight tic-tac piece. These are the two top button switches that I was telling you before. I made my top piece too wide. Those pieces should be wider. Okay, now I got the two pieces at the top that you saw. I had to trim them, make them a little shorter. When you place them on, make sure too that you press down on the outer sides, because it is a little thicker in the center and kind of tapers a little bit at each side, each left and right side, so be aware of that. Now I'm going to add a little bit of a dark blue that I rolled very, 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 very thin between my fingers there. And I'm going to fill in those cracks that I have in between the two white panels, the side panels and the center one, you see? So I just fill it in. I roll it till it's skinny enough to fit, lay it down so it's tucked in nice and flush, and then call it good. I also realized that those outer panels, you see I'm cutting the corners off to make it a little more rounded. They should have been rounded. So I had to go back and touch that up a bit. Okay, now I'm going to take some gray gum paste, a very light gray gum paste, and roll it out very, 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 very thin. Very thin. And I'm going to start making the buttons that sit on the white part of the side controllers. So I've got two very tiny little skinny little tic-tac shaped pieces there, as you can see, of white gum paste that I put down on top of the very, 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 very thin gray. And I anchored them down with a little bit of water, and now I'm tracing them. I'm cutting them out. So you're going to be able to see a little bit of gray showing around the sides of the white. I don't know what they are, because once again I don't have a PS, but that's okay. I'm assuming there's some kind of control buttons, so I put one on either side, and when you place them, make sure you follow the angle of the blue line and the crease between the pieces. So they don't sit straight up and down. They do kind of flare out a little bit, but they sit right up at the top. Now these white circles with gray circles are going to become the circle buttons on the right that have the, what is it, the X, the triangle, the square, and the circle. They are a little on the big side, just because my sizing isn't perfect, but it's not bad either. I don't think anyone's going to look at that and go, ugh, what is that? So I put gray circles, as you saw, down first, and then a smaller size white circle on top. I'm doing the left side's buttons now. They're kind of like little arrows or little houses maybe. So I start with a square, okay? I got a square that's going to fit comfortably inside because I still need to leave room for a gray outline. And I'm going to cut a plus out of it, okay? So now I've got my plus. Now I'm going to cut straight in toward the center from each of the inner corners there. And it will create four little like houses or triangle shapes or something, whatever you want to call them. You'll see in a second when I get it all apart. What I should have done, instead of just making little cuts, I should have just cut straight across, like cut an X out of the center. That would have made more sense looking back on it now. But that's okay. Now you can see what I ended up with. I got kind of four little houses. I'm going to trim them down because they were uneven, so I tried to clean them up a bit. And once I'm happy with them, then I'm going to do kind of like what I did with the circles. I'm going to put them down on my very, very, very thin gray. And I'm going to trace them again with my X-Acto knife. I'm going to cut out the shapes all around them until I get four little houses sitting on four little gray fields. And once I get them all cut out, then I'm going to carefully place them on the left controller. When you place them, make sure that all the little arrows are pointing in together. They go up, down, left, and right. And that you leave space in between them. The gray does not touch. There is room in between each of them, so you're going to see the white of the background controller all around it. Okay, so you can see in that picture there. Now I've got a black food coloring marker here that I'm writing in the details. I don't have gray. Technically, it's supposed to be the same light gray. I don't have light gray. I cheated. I used black. I made three little up and down lines on the left side and little arrows pointing up, down, left, and right on the controllers. On the other side, I did three horizontal lines above that little bean control thing. And then on the bottom control, an X, or bottom circle, sorry, an X. The top one gets a triangle. The left gets a square. The right gets a circle. Now, you can't see it too well, but I drew the PS logo in the center there. It's kind of shiny. You can see I got some vent buttons and vent holes in there too. Looking good, right? Not so shabby. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe because it helps me out in return. We help each other, see? I've got a lot of other videos out there, so please check those out. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.